Hello and welcome. This is our Next in Line series to our knowledge sharing that we do one webinar every once a month. And today is something different from the typical that we have been having so far on PCI DSS. This time we are working on SOC2 and U. Now the reason is SOC2 is really coming up on as a key requirements. There are just too many questions, and people are flagging too many stories that have been given to them by their clients, and also most importantly their so-called consultants and auditors. So this is going to be very interesting, and so stay with me. There are too many things that I'll be covering. I don't have a lot of time. It's like 30-40 minutes that I'll be doing this. So at any point of time, if you have any queries, do write in your queries, and I will take it up as much as possible. And furthermore, if I'm not able to answer anymore, I'll definitely be answering your queries after the webinar is over. So with that in perspective, let's start. Okay, now face to voice, that is me. I'm the director for VISTA InfoSec. I've been working in IT for like 24 plus, almost 25 years now. And I've done my CISA, CSSP, and all those things. I've been working through companies across the world on many areas of information security. I'm also a PCI QSA, and so what we are going to do over here, brief background of SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3. We'll be getting into the trust principles, which is very important, how you prepare for audit, and what are the frame overlaps that would be happening. Frameworks overlap with other frameworks that you might be having in place, like PCI DSS, or it could be ISO 27001. There are many myths and stories that are floating around, so I'll be covering all those things in my webinar. So stay with me on this. A brief overview of SOC. Now, SOC primarily stands for Service Organization Controls. So by default, it means like it is applies to companies who are service providers, like basically outsourcing and outsourced partners of various operations. So earlier you must have heard of SAS 70 and SSA 16 and stuff. So that's where this thing comes into place, and we have SSA 16, which was there earlier, which replaces SAS 70 audit for service organization. This is the standard under which the audit is performed, and the basic of SOC 1 audit. We'll be looking at what is the meaning more in detail. Don't worry, this is just an overview. So SOC 1 is more the financial, ICFR, in case you might have heard of it, internal control over financial reporting. Now it is basically the financial background of your organization, the way internal audits are happening, the way you are reporting on your financial standing and strength. This is that. SOC 2 is again is more from the subcontractor perspective, and it is more on the InfoSec line. Very much InfoSec, and how InfoSec and IT operations are managed within the enterprise. So this is what we'll be focusing on today, SOC 2. Now SOC 3 is again SOC 2, but SOC 2 is more like a highly confidential report. It can, if it falls in the wrong hands, it might impact the organization in the wrong way. SOC 3 is more like anybody can use, so all the critical information or sensitive information is taken out, and a diluted version of SOC 2 becomes SOC 3. So SOC 1 is an engagement performed under 8801, which is SSA number 16. Now in May 2017, SSA 18 has also come, but this is for SSA 16 is now known as a SOC 1 engagement. It replaces the former SAS 70 reports. Now it focuses solely on system controls at service organization for internal control over financial reporting. Now again, it is mostly from the financial statements and how your internal audits and how you're managing your money within the enterprise comes into place. Whether you're a financially stable company and how you're managing your budgets and all becomes more from the SOC 1 perspective. Who is basically covered over here? So basically companies like who are doing the payroll processing, healthcare, trust departments of banks, so the financial services, asset management. So all these companies are covered. Now understand, they want to basically know whether you are covered or not. Now, whether it is this type of cover or whether you're actually using a gun to take care, or whether you're actually doing it in seriousness or just a cover up, is something that a SOC1 report tries to unravel. SOC2, now this is the core of what we're going to cover today. Now, this has been defined by AICPA, American Institute for Certified Public Accountants, under the TSP Trust Service Principles Section 100. There are 5 trust principles: security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. We'll be looking into all of these things in detail, so don't worry. So SOC2 is basically from, as you can see, it's not really a something to really think about. It is more from the InfoSec perspective. So who's covered? All those who are providing outsourced services. It could be cloud-based service providers, HR services, security services, email collaboration, cloud ERP, data center co-locations, IT systems management. It could be even somebody who is taking customer data, analyzing it, and giving it back. So all those BPO operations, all those things also gets covered under SOC 2, where any service where customer's primary concern is security, availability, or privacy, where your customer, so it is not something for internal, you can use it for internal consumption, but SOC 2 is basically to ensure that you are taking care of customer data appropriately. As an outsourced service provider, are you providing your are you providing secure and reliable services to your customers? That is the base of SOC 2. And what do you need? Basically, it could be regulatory requirements. Some user, this is the basic reason why it is there. The client mandates that you better have SOC 2. It could be vendor management, or it could be due diligence. Now, we even have, we have been doing this for a couple of years now, SOC 2. And as a company, we do get the good pleasure of working with companies who are doing it basically for due diligence. That is, nobody has mandated, but they want to ensure that their services are as per global expectations, so that in case somebody asks for it, they are not cramming for the report. Because as you go along, you will see that it's not a small thing. It is not something that you can get it done within a week's time or even a month's time. So it could be somebody could be doing it for being able to bid in RFPs where SOC 2 is a mandate. In many of the in outsourcing RFPs that comes along, SOC 2 becomes a mandate. So there is a SOC 3, as we said earlier, addresses a similar subject matter as SOC 2. There are the reports which are there as per the requirements of SOC 2. But you have to remember that SOC 2 reports are restricted use reports and are typically intended for a specific party. But SOC 3 reports are general use reports. Okay, so SOC 2 reports are general use reports. That is something that you have to keep in mind. This is your SOC 2 report, general use, and these are restricted use reports. SOC 2 are restricted, SOC 3 are general use. You can use it for marketing. You can publish it on your website. So it is like ISMS manual, as it is called in some organizations, where it just says what you're doing, but no detail on how you are actually doing it. Now, in summary over here, as you can see, the applicability for SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3. SOC 1 basically is a carry forward from SSAE 16. Scope is ICFR, that is Internal Controls of Financial Regulation. There are some control objectives. Usage of report is basically by the user auditor, user entity, or the management of the service organization, internal consumption. SOC 2 is all the knowledgeable parties, means it's on a need to know basis only, based on trust principles and GAP, which is also called as generally acceptable privacy principles, published by Canada, by the Canadian Institute. And here it is based, the standard guidance is AICPA. Here also it is SOC 3, again the same AICPA and 80101, but it is usage of report is anyone. So this is like a summary of what the 3 standards are all about. You can take a minute to just go through it. If you have any queries, drop in. I would take it before I move to the other one. So starting off, a quick query. Okay, there is my friend Jaiswar who's asking a query whether the presentation would be provided for reference at the end of the webinar. Yes, the videos will be made available. It is also there on the YouTube page. I'll take you through it at the end of the webinar, towards the end. But this is all open for anybody to use. Go well ahead, no problem. Okay, a quick show of hands. How many companies are, okay, I've got almost 220 people on my webinar today, and a quick question for everyone. How many would be a BPO or looking at managing or like an outsourced organization? You can click on the hand symbol. How many of you would be coming under that? You can click on the hand symbol. Don't worry, nobody else can see it. I won't be contacting you for contracts. Don't worry about that. This is just for you, nothing else. Okay. Now, there is one question asked by Anshul Gupta here. SOC1 report is not concerned with customer data. No, SOC1 is basically your own internal financial reporting standards. It's not about customer data. For customer data, there is SOC2 is there. So that is there. There are quite a few questions. I'll just take quickly whatever I can. What about customer financial data? Again, customer financial data. This is SOC1 is for your internal financial reporting standards. It's not for when you're handling customer data. When you're handling customer data, the trust principles, trust service principles of SOC2 would be applicable. So customer financial data, you're processing it. So again, there would be SOC2 applicable to you, SOC2, SOC3, whichever is there. Now, there is Ravi Kalyan. He's asked a nice question. In fintech companies nowadays, demand for SOC2 is increasing. Customers also trying to believe that SOC2 is more precise than SOC1. Why is this? No, Mr. Ravi Kalyan, no, that's not the case, because the objective of the two reports is totally different. SOC1 is for financial reporting. SOC2 is, I'll take you back to the points over here, as you can see. So SOC1, one sec, I'll take you back to SOC2. These are the trust principles, which is security, availability, processing, integrity. So no matter what you are processing, it could be companies, your customers, financial data, whatever could be the case, it's all covered under SOC2. ICFR applies to your own internal financial stability only, not for the others. Who's user of SOC2? Naresh Gupta, good question. Okay, SOC2 users are over here. I think we went through it. Why do you need, or rather, who's the user for SOC2 is over here? It could be maybe a regulator has asked for it, or maybe your clients has mandated and they want to see the SOC2 report. Independent third party opinion. It could be your internal consumption also. So there is nothing like you have to publish it online. It is basically what to say, assurance to your clients and to your internal stakeholders that you are following international regulations for the protection of the customer data. So knowledgeable parties in regulatory parlance is need to know basis only. There are too many questions. I'll just take one more and then I'll move on. Okay, can we seek, there is Vikas Sharma. Thank you for your question, Vikas. Can we seek SOC2 report of the data of Indian company which is hosted on cloud with Indian? Yes, you can. Again, see, all the major cloud service providers, whether it is Azure or AWS, they are all SOC1, SOC2, SOC3, all certified, PCI, DSS, HIPAA, everything they are certified. So typically you can ask them for the report, but I don't think they'll issue the full report to you. They'll probably give you a SOC3 because SOC2 would be a confidential report, and they wouldn't like to, divulge on the confidential aspects of their infrastructure. But yes, you can ask your client on how to, you can ask your client to, okay, let me make this more precise. You have a service provider who's maybe processing your payroll information or maybe doing some data mining on your client data, and that client's application is hosted on AWS. Now, AWS per se is SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 and all certified for sure. But you also need to ask your client, because see, AWS or Azure is not managing that application. AWS and Azure would primarily be certified on the availability aspects only, and maybe on the infrastructure security aspects. They wouldn't be certified on the processing integrity or the internal confidentiality of the application, or even how your how your vendors are managing the data within the enterprise, within their enterprise, before pushing it to the cloud. So you have to ask your vendors, your subcontractors, for SOC2 report. Okay, somebody else, Praveen Kumar Sinha, 27,001 SOC 2, what is the differences and similarities? We'll come to that. Manoj Purandare, hello Manoj, I'm glad we could connect again. Thank you for your question, which is, will SOC 2 report be considerable as per GDPR for international? No. GDPR is only for privacy aspects. A part of it will definitely be covered, but not all the aspects. We'll come to that. Okay. Moving ahead, I'm sorry, there are just too many questions and I have to finish my presentation, but rest assured, all the questions which are there, for those whomsoever I have not answered, I will write back to you, I promise you that, or drop me a question, I'll be putting my email address at the end. So the primary thing, the trust principles in SOC 2, defining the system, which is infrastructure. Now what do you mean by scoping out your SOC 2 environment? So what all is included when you are doing SOC 2? All these 5 things are included. Infrastructure, which could be your facilities, equipment, networks, software, programs, operating systems, systems, application, even the people involved. Okay, everything gets covered. The procedures, the automated, manual, even the data per se, which is the prime consideration, is also covered. So all these 5 parameters, or the 5 entities, which is infrastructure, software, people, procedure, and data, are covered as a part of the systems to be certified. This is not just IT, it is not just data, even the policies, procedures, people, everything is covered. The trust principles. Okay, now we're coming to the core of it. There are 5 trust principles. Again, this is not defined by me, this is defined by AICPA. Remember, the writer or the founder or the driver of this standard is AICPA. You can go to aicpa.org, you can download the entire standard and even their audit checklist for free. They're not charging anything for it. So security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. We'll look into each of them in detail. So don't worry, next slide coming up. There are the trust principle criteria components. That is, what is to be represented for each of the trust principles that you saw over here. For each of these things, you have to show the policies, you have to show the communications with your internal and external parties, that whatever is your belief in your confidentiality, integrity, processing and all has been communicated to your clients also. The procedures which are there in place, and of course how you are monitoring, that is ensuring diligence in implementation of the control requirements. The first principle is a security principle. Remember what we saw over here? The security principle. Yes, we are coming over here. We are coming to that. So the security principle refers to the protection of the system from unauthorized logical and physical access. So security principle, like we have done dozens of SOC 2 for dozens of companies, and I cannot think of any company anywhere who cannot be covered under the trust principle of security. Okay, what do you mean by covered under the trust principle of security? The 5 trust principles, based on your business model, some particular trust principle might not be applicable to you. For example, you may say, we do not have any sort of privacy information on your system, so the trust principle of privacy doesn't apply to you. Of course, you'll have to prove it to your auditor. Confidentiality, by and large, I don't see how it doesn't apply. Now, what about processing integrity? What if you are not doing any sort of processing? You are just providing an repository for data storage. So in that case, processing integrity might not apply. Availability, I don't see how it can. If you're doing any sort of business processing for your clients, how is availability not applicable to you is something that I cannot comprehend. But given sufficient reason, you can say a particular trust principle is not applicable to you. So The security principle is more on limiting from access to the system on need basis only, that you are limited your system, that your system is able to efficiently keep people out who are not really required to be within the system. It's only for permitting, as it is written over here, permitting authorized access to the system based on relevant needs and preventing unauthorized access to the system in all other cases. So it could be role-based access control, it could be firewall, what all you are using to ensure that your system is protected from unauthorized access, which could be logical and or physical. So that's all the security principle is all about. The availability principle. Now, stay with me on this, okay? But don't confuse this with your ISO 27001. The base over here is this part. As you can see, accessibility to the system, products, and services as advertised or committed by contract, service level, or other agreements. So it is basically, if you have committed 99% uptime to your clients, are you providing that to your clients or not? That's all that there is to it. Now, it does not itself set that you should have 99% uptime or 95% or 99% upon 99. It doesn't say anything on those lines. It doesn't even guide you how to reach that availability guideline, availability target. It does not even address system functionality and usability. Okay, so it doesn't look at that way. So you provided that 99% uptime or 95% uptime. Are you sufficiently and in a capable manner achieving that, yes or no? That's all that there is. Key elements over here again is also preventive in action. That is not just in case your system fails can you recover, it's also identifying and preventing potential threats to the system availability. So the virus prevention, system backup, maintaining disaster recovery system, all those things comes very well under the availability principle. But again, to repeat, it doesn't tell you how to do something like a business impact analysis, meet the stakeholders, identify your critical system. It doesn't give you anything like that. It's a standard. Remember this. This is a law which simply says you shall do this. How you do it is up to you to define. Okay, this is not like 27,001 and 27,002, where you say that 27,001 is a mandate and 27,002 provides a guidance for implementation. There is nothing like that over here. So moving ahead, processing integrity. This is, oh man, this is something, this is like a tricky aspect. So if you're processing data, proof that your system processing is complete, accurate, timely, and authorized. So all the 5 parameters we'll be covering over here. So basically you're taking the information, you're processing it. So completeness would be all transactions are processed and all services are performed without exception. Validity in accordance with business values and expectations. Again, it goes back to what agreement you have with the client. What are your responsibilities and what is not your responsibility? Remember that. Now accuracy, again, the whatever is being submitted to you, it remains the data is accurately processed as per again client information, client expectation, is processed or performed as intended. As intended by whom? The client. Timeliness, again, whatever you have committed, commitment, see in the context of provision of those services is addressed in the context of commitments made for such a delivery. So you have said that I will process this data out within 2 hours. So that's where the timeliness comes into place. Authorization in accordance with the required approvals and privileges defined by policies governing system processing. With due authorization, that is. Now, this is something that I just put up, processing integrity versus data integrity. Somebody will be wondering, is this the same as data integrity that you see in, say, 27,001? No, there is a difference. Now, in data integrity, it also speaks about, when you're speaking about ISO 27001, that is the data, you should be having controls in place to ensure that the data that you've received is accurate. Here, that's not the case. Here, whether you, after you have received it, whether you're accurately processing it. So it will be like a garbage in, garbage out. But there is no mandate over here to ensure that the data is received is accurate or not. Now, See, errors that might have been introduced into the system, into the information and the control procedures at external sites are typically beyond the entity's control. Even in a case where the information stored by the system is explicitly included in the description of the system that defines the engagement, it is still possible that the system exhibits high processing integrity without exhibiting high data integrity. What do I mean by that? It could be like maybe I'm storing, maybe I'm doing some calculations for the clients based on the dollar value, and the dollar value is changing every second. But what if I'm updating my dollar, exchange rating every hour? So in that case, the data integrity has been compromised. But over here, the processing integrity aspect doesn't cover that. So what if, look over here, maybe an address is stored in the system, which is may have passed all appropriate edit checks. Like you may have forced a person to select the a proper city, state, and even check the PIN code for validity and stuff. But then it may no longer be current, or it could be incomplete, like a name of a building without the name, without the number of your apartment. So the data integrity aspects is not covered in SOC 2. It's only the processing integrity which is covered. Confidentiality, I guess every one of you would know what this means. The confidentiality, again, the governing factor would be the agreement that you signed with the customer, the intellectual property and client and customer list, subject to the intellectual property of the client in itself. So are you, ensuring that the data is kept on a need-to-know basis, away from prying eyes, ensuring that there is enough audit trails in place, ensuring that somebody is checking, like a maker checker stuff in place before somebody is allowed access to it. What about unauthorized access during transmission while it is stored? Data at rest, data in motion, data in storage. Data in processing, whatever the case. So is due confidentiality being maintained for that? Okay. The privacy principle, I would just like to spend some more time on this, because in almost all the calls that I have with my clients, majority of the time the confusion is with privacy. People are confusing confidentiality with privacy. Of course, there was a huge debate even online, because it sounds almost the same. Privacy, okay, I'm ensuring that my data is not going out to somebody. How is that different from confidentiality? Just think about it. That's where the Canadian Institute of Chartered Accountants, CICA, they came up with GAP, generally accepted privacy principles. It is defined as the rights and obligations of individuals and organizations with respect to the collection, use, retention, disclosure, and disposal of personal information. Again, you might say this is the same as confidentiality. Happens. To be honest with you, even the first time I read this, even I was a bit confused. So the privacy, they have written the standard very well, but there are many areas of privacy which is not covered under confidentiality. So you're asking, what are those? Here it is. Okay, there is Zuckerberg for you. So something like this, the notice part, which is not really covered under confidentiality, provides notice about said privacy policies and procedures and identifies a purpose. So let's assume I am providing my data to a bank for giving me a loan. Okay, so they are supposed to be using that data only for the purpose of checking my eligibility for a loan and giving me the loan, or checking my financial background and giving me a loan. They cannot be using the data to sell me something like an insurance, something for the bank has to give in writing that for what data is this information being collected, used, retained, and to whom will it be disclosed. All these things doesn't get covered under confidentiality. What about choice and consent? In some cases, for example, some data is optional. So for example, you are filling a particular form for a hospital. Your father's name and your mother's maiden name and all could be optional. So does the entity write to you very explicitly? The client informs the end user explicitly that these things need not be provided. It could be that you don't need my home number, you just need my mobile number. So why did you take my home number? The collection part, this is very tricky, and if you're an Indian, this would not really make much sense to you. So for example, I take electricity from a well-known provider on which you can very well rely on. So you got what I'm saying. So I give them my I take an electricity connection, but soon one of their subsidiaries who's also selling mutual fund will call me and say, do you need mutual fund? This is what we are doing, and do you need a loan, because they even have a loan facility? Do you need a mobile phone, because those they are even providing mobile phones? So can I have sufficient reliance on my provider to ensure that they do not misuse my data other than for what purpose I actually provided it to them? What about use, retention, and disposal? Uh, Again, the entity is mandated to inform the client as to for what data is it will be used, and whenever there's a change of use, the organization has to take an explicit or at least have an implicit consent from the end user to be able to change the purpose for which the data has been collected, how long it will be collected, and how often, and how can it be disposed of. Who can ask for it? And if the organization is disclosing the data to somebody else, they have to inform the end user. See, all these parameters is not something which is required under confidentiality. There is something else, access the entity. So I have my data with my service provider, my mobile provider. I should be in a position to see it online, what is my personal information for review and update as required. Disclosure to third parties. So again, disclosure to third parties only for the purpose identified in the notice. You ask which notice? I'm talking about this. The notice about it, privacy policies and procedures. So in that notice, the entity, which is the company getting SOC 2 certified, has to inform and for what purpose, to whom it will be disclosing what. Again, now here is slight overlap with confidentiality. Security for privacy protects personal information against unauthorized access. Here the focus is very high on the quality aspects. That is, what measures there are actually controls with in SOC 2 which demand you to articulate as to for what what controls you have in place to ensure that the data that you collect from the end user, personal information, is accurate and complete. This is not something which is required under confidentiality. Now, monitoring and enforcement, how you're keeping track that the data is not misused and it's in sync with the privacy policy and the privacy notice, and how you're managing complaints and disputes and responding to companies or to individuals when they ask any information regarding confidentiality or the privacy of the data. You have to provide it. Now, okay, so Vikas again has asked a question. So if I understand correctly, the checklist of the audit of the service provider will largely be derived out of no. The audit checklist you have to download from the AICPA website, my friend. The checklist of the audit will be provided by AICPA, and within that you have to extend you have to see till what level you have to go based on the SOW or the MSA that you have signed with your clients, assuming that your organization is going ahead for SOC 2. So how long does it take? Typically speaking, this is okay. I just put in a few more slides on this. Typically speaking, understand that is a type 1 report. The planning and scoping, this takes a lot of time. Planning and scoping takes 2 to 4 weeks. Design and assessment takes 3 to 4 weeks. Reporting takes 2 weeks. Total time is 7 to 10 weeks. Type 2 reports takes longer, like 14 weeks. This is just the assignment time. Now we'll go. Okay, I know that I've not covered yet what is type 1, type 2. Coming to that. The cost for certification, again, it depends. It is very expensive, to get a SOC 2 done. Depends on the complexity of organization, number of employees, multiple locations, number of principals selected. You can select one, several, or all of the principals, and the type of report, which is type 1 design only, or type 2 which is design and operating effectiveness, and the period that you want to get covered in the report, the number of controls that is to be covered in the report. All these things has to be covered. Now understand, the first time we do SOC 2, the upfront cost is always higher. because it is like almost 486, as I remember, controls in SOC 2. Yes, you heard me right, 486. ISO 27001 has 114. PCI DSS in its entirety has 284 something controls. So the next time you do it, of course, the cost will be slightly lesser. So if somebody is, telling you that it can get done within a month's time, SOC 2, it's not happening. This is the average time. Going ahead, the types of reports, the type 1 and type 2 reports. Now, type 1, type 2 refers to SOC 1 and SOC 2 also. So there is a SOC 1, hear me correctly. Type 1 reports doesn't mean SOC 1 and type 2 refers to SOC 2. No. SOC 1 has type 1, type 2. SOC 2 also has type 1, type 2. What it means is very simple. Point in time report is type 1. That is, as on date, they're looking at your design of controls, not the operation effectiveness. So here the focus in type 1 would be design of controls. But in type 2, it is design of controls and operating effectiveness of controls. So you may be having an antivirus, firewall, firefighting, all those things in place, or you could be having internal audits and all those things, internal patching, vulnerability assessment, internal trainings, hiring procedures, all those things. Just the design of controls will come in SOC 1, but here in SOC 2 will actually be checking, the auditor would actually be checking the suitability of design and your evidence for implementation of minimum 6 months to 12 months. Okay, so the first time you do it, it can typically be SOC 2 type 1, and then on a recurring basis it will be SOC 2 type 2. So when a service organization typically asks for a SOC 2 report, it's always a type 2 report, not a type 1. A type 1 report is more informative. Type 2 report is what is meant by operating effectiveness. Of course, if you're a new company or you started a new process, then you don't really have a choice because you just started. All right, so moving ahead. One sec. Okay. And here we see the SOC report structure, traditional SAS 70, auditor's opinion, SOC 1, there will be an auditor's opinion. There is something called as a management assertion. We'll cover this in detail. The system description, the control objectives, control activities, test of operating effectiveness, the result of the test. So SOC 1, SOC 2, this is what it is. As you can see in SOC 3, your controls, test of effectiveness, results, all those things will be missing. So it is just like a marketing gimmick, a SOC 3 report. The report structure of SOC 2, there is the auditor's opinion at the top. There is a management assertion which typically details out what the company is doing, what controls it has in place, how long it's been in existence, the seriousness of the management, the organization structure, all those things come as a part of the management assertion, which is written by the management of the audit or the organization to be audited. The description of the system, the test of controls and corresponding results. Again, for the report format, you can look up AICPA. They have provided everything for free. Now, in a type 1 report, what would be there? Type 2, what would be there? Both would contain a description of the service organization systems. There would be written assertion by the management regarding the description of service organization system and suitability of design. Here, again, not just a listing of the controls, but also an assertion on the operating effectiveness. So here, understand, this is a snapshot in time. This is more on a continual basis, 6 months. The control listing remains the same. Now, points to consider when you're starting off on a SOC 2 journey. It's going to be very interesting, and understand, go through all your contracts, RFPs and SLAs, contracts that you have in place, RFPs that you typically fill, SLAs that you sign with the clients, and come to know what you're committing to your clients. Okay, now we had a client who was just committing availability to their clients in their SLA, but they are also processing the data. They are also taking care or storing a huge amount of extremely sensitive information. So that client came up to me and said that we are just looking at availability as a trust principle, but as an auditor, we told them that's simply not possible because this is customer data that you're handling, and the customer, even though in the SLE you've maintained that you're only providing 99.9% uptime, but you're also processing, you are coming under confidentiality, you are coming under processing integrity, you're coming under security, you're also coming under privacy because it contains privacy information also. So this may not be an all in all, but understand what you're providing to the client. The AICPA website, visit them, there's a ton of information, get yourself trained. Executive communication from the senior management is very important because this is a very painful standard to be done. It is very, 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 very detailed. Okay, so without the senior management forcing it down the ranks, it is not going to happen. 486 controls, and believe me, okay, somebody had asked me a question over here, how does 27001 overlap? What I would say is that just download the standard and you'll see what I mean. I don't have the time, I'm already out of time, but understand there is you cannot just say I'm 27001 certified. No, 27001 in my opinion is like 20% of SOC 2, 20% of SOC 2, that's it. So if you have 27,001 in place, it's a good starting point, but it's not, you cannot be sleeping on it that, okay, we are 27,001 certified, so it is fine with us. Have a discussion with the service auditor before you start, because it shouldn't happen that you start off with 2 or 3 trust principles and the auditor says that no, the other 2 are also applicable to you. Then what will you do? RA and scoping, very important. Again, work with your auditor to identify your in-scope services, your physical locations. Now, physical locations, again, you cannot just say that, I only want my Mumbai office to be certified, or I only want my office in New York to be certified, not my supporting office based in Bangalore, India. No, see, it's really not your choice. If the data from your New York office is coming to Bangalore office, your Bangalore office gets covered by default. It's not really a choice. It's like PCI DSS or HIPAA. Wherever the data goes, that becomes a part of your scope. Otherwise, get the data out. Are you letting your company, are you letting your clients know that you are sending data to 4 other locations and you're not getting them certified? Will your client agree to it? So identify the risks, document the processes, control activities, the timeline for it. It's a very tedious process, takes like 4 to 6 months at least. Now, this is something that please be very clear on, whether it is SOC 1, SOC 2 or SOC 3, it has to be done by licensed CPA firm or a licensed CPA. Okay, it cannot be just somebody who's passed the CPA exam. He has to be accredited to AICPA, having a practitioner's license. Okay, I was speaking to a friend yesterday. I'm not joking. I was speaking to a friend yesterday, and believe me or not, for the past few years he was getting SOC 1 or SSA 16 getting done, and it was signed by his CA. Yes, you would be laughing, but that's what it is. It is, down here in this country, because of the loose regulations, it's not really major problem. It's not really looked into, but ensure that you're working with a good company. For example, we are having a presence in the US. We have our own CPAs on rolls in US and in India. So all the certifications flow from a US firm. There are companies in India also providing SOC 2 certification, but understand there is no liability because you are in India. But if you get a proper CPA from the US, his license is on stake over there. If there is a screw up, his license will be cancelled. So if you are really looking at getting a good job done, work with a company who is already present, in my opinion, that is in the US and all. So there is a lot of seriousness associated with the assignment. Okay, we have got like a dozen calls where some of their some consultant or somebody has told them that because you're 27,001, it can get done in 15 days. No way. Even if you're working 24 hours a day, it's not going to happen. Ensure that they are sufficiently independent. You cannot have one of your own people or one of your own stakeholders certifying you. Single vendor approach, what I mean by that is you will need consulting. If you look up the standard, don't take my word for it. Just go to aicpa.org. Just go to aicpa.org and download the standard, and you will see the complexity associated, the amount of evidence that is needed, right? Don't take it very lightly. Now somebody has asked a question, does your name is not shown, does SOC 2 apply to every SaaS company, or is it the company that uses the cloud to store it? No, it's not just a SaaS companies, it is anywhere, any company who's processing client information as an outsourced company. Okay, this regulation is there in the US. It is a mandate in the US. If you are outsourcing your job, your vendor should be SOC 2 certified. So SaaS would be one of the vendors. It could be maybe you're just sending out your medical data to somebody to transcribe, analyze, and send it back to you. They are a part of scope. It's not just SaaS or anybody who's on the cloud. Okay, I'll again quickly take you through one more. I'm just taking you back over here. This is the time. This is the minimum time. This is just the audit time. This is just for the audit. Consulting and all takes a lot more. All right, so it's time for me to close. There are too many things. You can drop me a line. I promise I will respond back to you. So that's about it with regards to SOC 2. I really hope it made sense to you. There are still many questions. I will respond to you. I promise you that. And you can always write to me and I will go through it. And okay, so far we have done 13 odd seminars. We are the 14 coming up on May 3rd. It's not 14 coming up on May 3rd. It will be on GDPR. There is something that will be very interesting because many people are even asking for GDPR. We'll be working in the same fact-finding mission, separating the myth from facts, separating the legend from truth. So look forward to seeing you then. Okay, but there is one thing that I would like to say. If you have any questions, again, drop me a line. I will, but don't ask me any product-based questions. We are not a product vendor. We don't sell any hardware or software. Now there is, after this webinar is just getting over, there will be a survey at the end of it. It makes a huge difference to us. Reading your feedback, even if it is critical, you can say, okay, these things didn't make sense to me. That's fine. Please do write in. Please do write in, and I will respond to you. This is our YouTube page. Incidentally, there is Kavita Mehta who has and Anita Jaiswal who has written Jaiswar, I'm sorry, Anita Jaiswar, Kavita Mehta asked the same question, that is, how can we access past webinars? So ask and you shall receive. This is our YouTube page, as you can see at the top, youtube.com, VISTA InfoSec official. All the videos are there. You can just go. Please do subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, and you'll get updates on the new videos that we publish, not just on PCI DSS or something, but even on other topics based on for information security. So again, thank you so much for being a great audience. That's our Facebook page. Do like, subscribe, and or follow. There's a facebook.com/VISTA InfoSec. Our LinkedIn page, you can be there. We post all the latest articles that we write over here. And again, this is my email address. You can always drop me a line and I would love to write back to you. Our mobile numbers are listed here. Our website is here. And for your reference, again, our YouTube page is here. So thank you again. I've really overshot the time. It's almost like 1 hour now, which should have been 40 minutes. So thank you so much. And almost everybody is still online. That shows you really loved what you saw. Thank you again. And I look forward to seeing you in the next webinar. And as I said, thank you for being there. I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks. Bye-bye.